You open the app and see an endless feed of faces. Swipes, short profiles, a few emojis in the bio, love to travel, no drama, good vibes only. After a couple of minutes, it all blends into grey noise. Every new match gives a tiny dose of hope, but almost immediately turns into another read, without a reply or a perfunctory "I'll get back to you later." You close the screen, and the man feels not just disappointment, but a strange sense of absurdity. Hands automatically reach to open it again, though the mind already knows nothing will change. The heart pounds with light anticipation, but experience whispers, "This is a trap." It seems like there have never been so many opportunities to meet anyone from any city, any status, any character. But the wider this digital ocean of dating becomes, the stronger the feeling that you're drifting alone on it, not looking for a pair. What they call the dating crisis doesn't look like a temporary fad or another cultural trend. It's no longer just talk in podcasts and videos, but statistics stubbornly moving in one direction. Fewer marriages, fewer children, more loneliness, trust almost zero. Men of middle and older age, who have seen both the traditional world of relationships and the world of swipes, likes, and quick dates, notice one unpleasant pattern. Year after year, demands on them grow, while the real willingness for reciprocity from some women declines. It would seem that progress should have made unions more honest and freer. But in practice, it has turned into an arena where one side is allowed everything, and the other is increasingly assigned the role of a silent sponsor and convenient scapegoat. This new social landscape causes frustration and misunderstanding for many. People increasingly face unpredictability in relationships, and attempts to find stability seem more and more difficult. Against this background, gaps in expectations and values between generations are growing, making it even harder to find a common language. At the heart of this crisis lies a phenomenon many try to ignore: hyper-inflated selectivity. Dating apps are designed so that women, especially those actively using them, receive a continuous stream of attention. Messages, likes, compliments, invitations, all this creates the illusion of infinite choice. Men face the opposite reality. Most of them drown in statistics. Some studies and internal platform data show how sharply skewed the distribution of female interest is. Huge groups of men end up in the shadows where the light of female attention simply doesn't reach, because all energy goes to a small top, those who possess several resources at once: looks, status, charisma, money. This creates a social dead zone effect for most men, who remain outside the radius of women's preferences. Such disproportion not only distorts perceptions of the real relationship market, but also intensifies feelings of isolation and dissatisfaction among many participants. These structural shifts in user behavior change familiar rules of the game and push for a review of expectations and interaction models in the modern world. This is not innate cruelty or malicious intent. It's an old evolutionary program that technology suddenly cranked to maximum. Once hypergamy made sense, a woman chose the strongest, most provided for, influential man because her and her future children's survival depended on it. In conditions of wars, diseases, high infant mortality, betting on the best was not about comfort, but life. But today, when a woman can earn for herself, live alone, use the protection of laws and medicine, this instinct has ceased to be a vital necessity. It has turned into a habit, always looking at the top of the pyramid and considering it normal to ignore everything below. This phenomenon has intensified and become almost universal, thanks to infinite access to choices through apps and social networks, where every woman can see and compete for the best. On a psychological level, an overfed effect arises. Thousands of options create the illusion that you can always find something better without making serious compromises. As a result, real relationships become unnecessary because the ideal keeps shifting forward and upward on the conditional ladder. It's hard to break out of this vicious circle since internal motivation for stability and reciprocity is gradually replaced by a thirst for perfect images and endless search for the very best. Algorithms make this habit almost irresistible. Any ordinary woman creating an account suddenly gets attention from those she'd only see from a far-off line. Messages from men with models in subscriptions, beautiful cars in stories, photos from luxury resorts, confident delivery honed over hundreds of similar chats. For the psyche, this is a signal. If such men write to me, I'm somewhere near their level too. After a couple of months of such processing, perception shifts. Building relationships with a simple man her age, without a flashy picture, without extra zeros in income, no longer seems acceptable. He suddenly drops out of sight. Not because he's bad, but because against the backdrop of artificially created abundance, he seems insufficient. The most dangerous thing here is the disappearance of the mirror. A man, especially over 35, has at least once faced the real consequences of his inadequacy. He's had to hear, "You can't handle it. You could do more. You earn too little." The world quickly tells him where he stands on his market. A woman regularly receiving attention from the top of the male pyramid can live for years feeling that the top is her natural environment. The problem surfaces later when these men turn out not tuned for serious relationships, don't rush to marry and have children, preferring an uncommitted lifestyle. Then familiar texts appear. All normal men are taken. Men fear strong women. Men are infantile. Far less often comes another, much more honest version. Perhaps my expectations and self-esteem have long detached from reality. This reality gradually displaces traditional relationship models, creating a new social dynamic that's hard for many to accept and understand. Money overlays this already complex picture. Where marriage was once a mutually beneficial economic contract, he brings resources, she brings home, children, support. Now it's increasingly built as a one-sided benefit model. A man must earn significantly more than a woman, preferably in the conditional top income in his region, be ready to pay not only for basic needs, but for a lifestyle the woman herself couldn't afford alone. Travel trips, restaurants, brands, rent of housing above real earnings. This is often seen as a natural part of the real man role. This model ignores the fact that women today earn equally or even more in many fields. Financial expectations remain inflated despite equality of opportunities. Society continues to broadcast the idea that a man by default must be the main provider. Such imbalance creates tension from the very start of any relationship. Women with stable income still seek men from the top 10% earners. This creates a closed loop of unrealistic expectations. At the same time, the idea of mutual contribution is strongly blurring. It's not about a woman quitting work to become a housewife, but about willingness to take on part of the responsibility and create added value in the union. But more and more often, from the description, "what I want from a man," the question, "what am I ready to do myself to make it easier, calmer, better for him," disappears. A new mindset emerges. I come as is, and that's enough. Body, character, habits, debts, past relationships, all this must be accepted by default, while the man is required to meet extremely specific and rigid parameters. This position deprives relationships of symmetry and mutual interest. A man feels not like a partner, but a service providing resources. Without balance of contributions, the union turns into a transaction, not an emotional connection. Lack of reciprocity leads to quick burnout. For a mature man, this looks like an economic experiment with a predictable outcome. He sees around stories of divorces where men lose half their property, pay alimony for years, lose access to children, or have to constantly justify themselves to ex-partners. He sees laws that more often side with the woman as the weaker party, even if by the time of conflict she's no longer weak. He sees a society where the phrase, "she's unhappy," automatically gives her victim status, making his position suspicious. And against this background, they come to him with an offer: take on maximum risk, pay the entry fee, play by rules that can change any time. and never ask what happens if it goes wrong. Divorce statistics confirm these risks. In most cases, men bear the main financial losses. Experience of acquaintances and public cases only heighten caution. Ultimately, the rational choice is to minimize participation in such a system. It's no surprise that at some point, a man steps back. This isn't always a loud protest or manifesto. Sometimes it's a quiet personal decision. It's easier for me to live alone. I'll have my income, my space, my habits. Answer only for myself and not risk everything I've built for someone who sees me as disposable. Such men don't disappear from earnings statistics, but vanish from marriage statistics. They may date, have short-term connections, but are extremely cautious about any offers to legalize or take the next step. This choice is often called MGTOW men, going their own way, and it grows not from bitterness, but cold risk calculation. They invest time in career, health, hobbies, building a life where no one can take away the fruits of their labor. Statistics confirm the share of single middle-aged men is sharply growing, especially among successful ones. Language plays a special role here, entrenched in modern culture. The term toxic has turned from an important tool for describing real violence into a club against any male boundaries. A man says, "I don't want to build a family with a woman who already has children from several men." His position is declared cruel and immature. A man admits, "It's important to me that my partner takes care of herself, stays in shape, doesn't destroy herself with bad habits, is ready to maintain a certain health standard together." This is packaged as "you're imposing body standards." A man honestly states he doesn't want to live in constant drama and conflict, preferring a calm home. He's told he fears strong character and wants a convenient woman. Social networks amplify this effect, turning personal preferences into public trials. Any disagreement risks becoming a viral post with condemnation hashtags. This dynamic creates an atmosphere of constant fear to speak out. Meanwhile, mirror statements from the other side are almost never labeled toxic. Open demands for high income, mocking men below a certain height, refusing even to consider partners from less prestigious professions, are presented as self-respect. The phrase, "I don't date men who earn less than me," is considered honest admission. The phrase, "I don't want to take on a woman with heavy baggage and other people's children," already sounds like a crime against morality. A man feels this mismatch skin deep, and with each new episode, the sensation strengthens. His desires and boundaries are not just less important by default, but outright undesirable. This asymmetry destroys trust from the start. In the end, talks of equality sound empty when rules differ by gender in practice. Society encourages selective tolerance, ignoring double standards. A separate chapter is the culture of games, where adults could sit and openly discuss what they're afraid of, what they want, their pain points. An army of advisors, bloggers, and coaches enters the game. Women are taught not to speak directly but to test, not admit sympathy, but create scarcity, disappear, make him miss, bring anxiety, check how much he's willing to tolerate. Real interest and respect are replaced by strategies. How to make him invest while you keep maximum freedom. Men become objects of experiments they never agreed to. These tactics are sold as success secrets, but in reality destroy trust from the first minutes. Popular courses promise control but lead to emotional burnout for both sides. The industry thrives on fear of loneliness. This is especially hard for those who have already walked the path of self-discipline and inner growth. A man who pulled himself from zero, built a career, restrained impulses, worked on character, has no desire to pass someone else's endless tests. He's used to the world responding strictly to his mistakes, firing, project failures, financial losses. So facing someone playing emotional games, he feels not inspiration to pursue, but fatigue. No external attractiveness outweighs the feeling of being deliberately placed in a maze to check, are you really as strong as you seem? For him, This isn't romance but meaningless stress after life's already passed tests. He's looking for an equal partner, not another check. He seeks stability, trust, and a genuine connection, free from theatrics and manipulation. Emotional exhaustion from repeated disappointments teaches him to protect his energy fiercely. The reality of authentic partnership feels increasingly rare in a world of performative dramas. Such men often withdraw emotionally even before relationships fully begin, cautious and reserved. All these processes create a background where even sincere, kind, partnership-oriented women are misunderstood. A man burned by manipulations and one-sided demands, meeting an honest and open woman, still sees a potential threat. He's heard promises, "I'm not like that. I won't be like others." Every time it started soft and beautiful, ending in the same scenario repeat. So when such a woman appears in his life, he often keeps distance, tests too long, hesitates to invest truly. Both sides lose as a result. She can't prove she's not playing because he no longer believes words. He can't risk because he's paid full price for trust too often. The toxic background poisons even healthy opportunities. The general climate of distrust destroys potential. This cycle perpetuates, creating barriers for genuine intimacy and understanding. We can't forget how the demography of loneliness is changing. More and more people enter their 40s, 50s, even 60s, without experience of long-term stable relationships. Someone was burned once and never risked again. Someone chased an ideal that never existed. Someone simply saw no point in entering a contract where responsibility is so unevenly distributed. This is not just personal stories. It's a slowly growing social explosion. Fewer families, fewer children, less mutual support between generations, more elderly alone, more people aging without support. OECD statistics show a 20–30% drop in marriages over recent decades in developed countries. Birth rates hit record lows, threatening economic stability. Society faces a succession crisis where generations lose connection. Ultimately, society's structure changes. Values and behavior norms shift. This isn't a temporary glitch, but a deep shift requiring rethinking approaches to relationships and life overall. The erosion of traditional support systems puts added pressure on individuals, reshaping community dynamics and personal expectations. In this whole picture, it's important to say clearly, the problem isn't that women have become more educated, freer, independent. That's a huge plus, and most sane men understand and value it. The problem is elsewhere. Some modern women use this freedom not to build more honest, conscious unions, but to preserve all privileges of the old model and add new ones. Demands on men remain and intensify, while their own obligations shrink to a minimum. This can't go on forever. Where balance of duties and rights goes to extremes, one side eventually exits the game. Historically, equilibrium was maintained by mutual investments, which are fewer today. This leads to growing distrust and sharpening conflicts in personal life and society. Without recalibrating expectations and contributions, both personal fulfillment and societal cohesion suffer. Men have already started doing this quietly, without slogans or posters. They create their lives, circles of communication, interests. They learn to live without constant need to be owed to someone. They don't hate women. They just no longer see point entering a system where any effort is taken for granted, any discontent as a crime. And as long as responses remain phrases like, "Men have become weak," "Men are infantile," "They fear strong women," nothing changes. Because the real reason isn't their weakness, but their ability to calculate. Recognizing this fact is necessary to create equal and fair relationships. A pragmatic understanding of risks and boundaries fosters healthier dynamics. Silent withdrawal is a symptom of deeper systemic imbalance, not simply rejection. The dating system is collapsing not because women were given freedom, but because a significant part decided freedom means no mirror. As long as a woman believes she can endlessly raise the bar of demands on a man without reviewing her expectations of herself, counting herself a victim of any refusal, balance will drift further. And the further it goes, the more often men choose solitude over playing by others' rules. This shift will inevitably lead to restructuring social norms. Ultimately, relationship models valuing honesty and reciprocity will win. Such a turn will enable building a more stable future for all and revive trust lost in the modern era of changes. Mutual accountability and respect will form the foundation of enduring unions. The recognition of individual limits paves the way for collective well-being. The format of relationships that survives isn't where one side declares itself the center of the universe, but where both are ready to admit no one owes anyone anything by birth or gender. Any closeness is a contract where risk and responsibility are fairly distributed. Where a woman sees a man not as a wallet, emotional container, universal guilty, but as a partner, relationships stop being a battlefield. Where a man can voice his fears, desires, boundaries aloud, without immediately hearing toxic, weak, or patriarchal, trust has a chance. Such unions are built on mutual respect and realistic expectations. Where each contributes, they withstand external crises and internal conflicts. Statistics show exactly such pairs break up less often. And until this becomes the norm, the phrase that modern women themselves destroy the dating market will sound not as exaggeration, but sober description of what men have long seen from inside. Guys, say honestly, are you already tired of endless games and expectations that give nothing? What exactly broke your faith in this system? Money, labels, or just lack of reciprocity? Share your stories in the comments. Let's together admit, freedom and peace are often better than toxic chaos. You deserve a life without compromises. Subscribe to Psycheria today, turn on notifications, and become part of a community discussing important things without bias. Thank you for your attention and trust.